What is up, everybody? Welcome to a UFC 291 Crunch Time. I am your host, Mike Brown, aka H3 Buddha, here with my pal, who we could not bring for the biggest card in a long time, 15 fights last week. Well, we couldn't have you for that card. We'd rather have you for like an 11 fight card, Blender.
11 fight cards.
I know.
12 would have been okay. 13 was fine. I mean,
not even
for a pay-per-view card, Mike. 11 fights on a pay-per-view card.
Bad. Even 292 up in Boston. I've been eyes on that card since I'll be going. That one is not stacked either. It's like 11 fights, 10 fights, and they just don't add enough fights, Blender. Why? If we had the boxing card on this, there's a huge fight. Crawford and Spencer or something, right, tonight? Put the boxing.
I got the under half a takedown in those fights.
I like that number.
Right. It's a boxing fight. Hopefully there's no takedowns.
I would hope so. But no, really, this card actually should be fun from an entertainment standpoint. Somebody on Twitter kind of needled us a little. We're going to have the first 5 minutes kind of crap talking. How there's just not a lot of places you can go on this card. But I think it's easy to be unique on this slate if you select.
Oh, really? You think so? I think the opposite.
I think it is because there's some obvious spots where people are going to be glued. The builds are going to build themselves. Main event, piece of the co-main, because I think people are just going to start right there. And then decide on the Derek Lewis. That's going to be your typical build. People want to play Derek Lewis, and I'm like, it's a weird one with 11 fights. Like, I don't know where you go.
One of those three things I'm not doing.
I bet you it's Derek Lewis.
Well, I mean, that fight, I have the other side of the fight.
Yeah, me too. But regardless, I think you might be fading the main event, but that's terrifying.
No, okay, we'll get into it. I'm less volume today. I'm only playing 20 lineups. Well, technically 22 lineups.
36.
Right. So not much. So when I play less lineups, I tend to take more stands by instead of trying to get all different combinations. But as I say on Fridays, the two contextual variables we have to look at when we're playing large field GPPs. What does the nut lineup kind of look like? More likely or less likely to look like. And that's determined by the size of the slate and the spreads of the fights. Now, the size of the slate is small, which means we now, especially for underdogs, put a little bit more priority on win equity rather than, ceiling finishing equity. And on the other side, the spreads of the fights, I mean, some of these fights are 3-1s, in the top end, but there's no overwhelming favorites. I mean, you got Bobby Green as a huge favorite is not that exciting of a DFS play. But the other thing that we do see here that shifts some of these contextual variables is that the ITD lines on this card are quite good. I mean, it's most likely you're going to need 6 finishes in your lineup. I mean, we don't have that many fighters on the slate that could put up like 120 in a decision. So it's going to be very dependent on finishes. So even though, win equity matters, I think there are certain fights that are more likely to end in either the first round with the KO, or someone could put up enough points with a third round finish. And I'm kind of targeting those fights. And as far as ownership is concerned, there are combinations that you probably should avoid. But I mean, to me, the most obvious combination is Poirier and Bonfim. Those are the only two fighters I have that are over 40% owned, projected, at least for me. But there are combinations that you could play both of them and still be fairly unique. Like I've lowered my threshold on an 11 fight card to typically I aim for under 5s. Now I'm just aiming for under 10s in 20 lineups. And which has led me to builds that are the most popular builds are going to be mid-range builds.
Do you know who that's why middle range builds make sense, because they have your money line, right, and your upside. But I feel like on this particular slate, Blender, and let me jump in for a second, is that there's some sneaky first round equity on many dogs. Like, I feel like path of victory on this particular slate is almost unlike a lot, because I can see multiple fights. The Giles Bonfim, like if Giles probably has to hurt him, really get respect. And if he doesn't do that, Bonfim scores 1,000,000 points in the second and third round. Like there's spots where second and third rounds where they take over the fight. Like what happens if Priscilla Cachoeira has a great first round, stalls out Maverick in the first, and then Maverick just absolutely annihilates her, over the second and third round takedowns. Like there's multiple spots here, but would you agree with me? There's one sneaky fight that I just don't know where to go. It's the Vergara and Salvador. That's like an elite.
I don't think that's sneaky. I don't think any fight on the slate is sneaky. It's 11 fights.
Well, true, but I think price point, like you said, middle range. It's kind of stuck right above.
That's where most people are going. I'm doing the opposite. I have barbell type lineups.
Interesting. So you actually think people will land on the Vergara or Salvador?
No, I think in the mid range, I think a lot of people will start with Bonfim as their highest priced fighter. Do something like Bonfim, Semmelsberger, De Lima, main event, and then pick like a Salvador or Cachoeira if they're not playing Maverick, or they'll play Medic if they're not playing Semmelsberger, Ribeiro if they're not playing Koplyov. Like I think it'll be that type of build. I think the Blachowicz did when you mentioned before the three things. One of the things that I'm not doing, I think I may have them in one lineup each, is the co-main. Like I have I've like one of each.
Hypothetically, that was my survey. Okay, that might have been on my survey where I might have said something like that is the spot where they're showing like 25% ownership for both of those guys, right? But I think that's going to be way higher. The name value, the inside the distance. But you and I always talk about it. The heavier weight class, the lower the volume. If it goes to a kickboxing decision, that's going to bust. So I do feel like that one's going to get a lot more ownership than what it's showing.
I have Blachowicz. My projected ownership is 25. Pereira at 31. Obviously, the ITD lines are good. Blachowicz plus 175, Pereira plus 130. The thing is that basically these guys have 5 minutes to hit a ceiling. And if they don't hit it in 5 minutes, like you're done. I don't see how Pereira gets there. Blachowicz is low volume. People are like, oh, he's going to put on his wrestling shoes or whatever. Well, I hope so in the first round, and then it gets him down in the first round.
Yep,
Stalls it. Second round, if there's a second round finish and someone ends up with like 87 points, I mean, that's fadeable. And if it hits the third round, I don't see how either of them get into the optimal lineup. I think that I have that as the most over-owned fight on the slate. But obviously, we're talking about light heavyweight. We're talking about two guys that have knockouts. Like, I can't be shocked if Alex Ferrer just knocks him out in 48 seconds. I mean, you're fading that. And I don't mind. We go on the show all the time. Like when it comes to like high variance, knockout or bust 5-minute type fights, I play them when they're low owned, not when they're high owned. So seeing that they're on the high owned side, like I'm rooting for the co-main starts. I'm just rooting for a staring contest.
Yeah, just pointing at each other would be the play there. And I mean, there's just, like you said, the middle range has a ton of plays. I think deciding on the top range, the Bobby Green, the Maverick, the Matthews, and Bonfim, like you said, Bonfim's eating up all the ownership for the most part, right? But if you're taking two pieces of these upper guys like Matthews, Maverick, or Green, doesn't that make you a little bit different in a certain regard?
Well, why do you think I'm building those lineups? And my side is, I know Bossborough in chat. Give me those thummy thumbs if you're in chat.
Yeah, we have to.
Feel free to post your chats and ask your questions, say your things. Bossborough says, I X'd out Bobby Green.
I don't blame. Well, he doesn't historically score well, but he's got.
Yeah, Mike. Dude, it's Tony Ferguson.
And even though I said that, and I said this to Liam, he's got sneaky upside even in the decision because he's scored 188 significant strikes before and put up a massive score over 100 points. So the volume has to be there. You got to pray to the, fight metric gods, the UFC stats gods. We're going to have our Mr. Burns hands if you're playing him, right? And like you said, Tony Ferguson, people are going to be drawn in there. Like, please play Tony Ferguson.
Right, I have zero Tony Ferguson. If he wins, so be it. right?
Yeah.
So Bobby Green's inside the distance line is plus 106. If you just took the name out, like for 9,500, plus 106 isn't great when you have guys that are minus 138, minus 225, minus 135, minus 120, minus 143. Sure. But that's why I have his ownership. It's 26%. So, like, for the ownership reason alone, it's a lot of these other guys are going to be like 35-ish percent. I'm building barbell builds as it is. I mean, dude.
So Maverick.
It's only Maverick on the other end. Do you feel, Mike, that if it wasn't for the fact that Shizuda Vicious wiped her out in her last fight, and Maverick like even had like an eye problem?
Yeah.
Like, dude, if
quick
that
turnarounds.
Fight, yeah, I don't even care about that. If that fight didn't happen, don't you think Miranda Maverick should be like a minus 500 favorite here?
Easily. And I was surprised that it's just, what is it, 70% basically to win the fight. And I mean, her path is, even if she has a bad first round, Blender, and Cachoeira gasses out, she has multiple takedowns over the second and third round. And I look at the Matthews fight as the same exact mold as the Cachoeira. And I don't know if you see that as well, but it seems like Flowers has got to be a front runner, got to hurt him, got to get respect, got to come out hot in that first round. And then if Matthews reverts back to the old school and not just try to kickbox with a guy, he might take over the fight at 9,300 and score like 105 points over a 3-round decision. It's funny. That's why I said this slate confuses me a bit, because I can see 2 or 3 fighters scoring more points over a decision than they do in a first round finish. Like even a second round finish, they'd probably score more points.
Well, it also
like
depends. It also depends on the game plan. Let me tell you that this is it's not a hot take. It's just that
Mr.
Burns hands right here. In my 20 lineups, I've one underdog in like 16 out of 20 lineups, right? Because that's kind of what I decided to do, because I only have 20 lineups. That underdog is Darius Flowers at 6,900.
It's gross, but it makes sense.
Okay, so hear me out, okay? I have his projected ownership at 14%. He's plus 240 to win, which is 29% implied probability, which is low, right? I know he's a big underdog. Yes, I get it. He's not an absurd underdog, but he's a big underdog. Plus 300 inside the distance. That's an implied probability of 25%. If Darius Flowers wins inside the distance at 25% of the time, let me tell you, he's at 6,900. He's probably going to be in the optimal lineup. If he's only going to be owned 14%, dude, his first round odds are plus 650. That's 13%. First round win is at least 90 points.
I think path to victory wise, and like not just the odds, I think that's the best path for him to win this fight. Like come out hot. Because what did Matthews do last time he got hurt? Like, we've never seen Matthews like that.
Mike, the reason I look at this and I go, if I had to choose, first off, the numbers, like if you tell me that Flowers is like 22% owned, well, now that's a different story. Now I'm looking a little bit elsewhere. So it's from the numbers perspective, he's under-owned. But secondly, if you just look at the fights, just like, you actually look at the fighters, you look at the names. Like Bobby Green, like I know how Bobby Green fights. Bobby Green ain't dumb. He may showboat a lot, but he ain't dumb. Miranda Maverick is inconsistent, but I don't consider her untrustworthy. Jake Matthews is totally untrustworthy. Jake Matthews will
kickbox with
a kickboxer, not go for takedowns. He falls in love with his hands. He has his hands down when he enters the pocket. I mean, like, dude, out of all these fighters in the top range, like in the 9K range, to me, Matthews has, I think, the highest upside in a decision, because if he does choose to wrestle against a late replacement from the regional scene, like, yeah, he could smother him for 3 rounds and put up 125 points. You're right.
Yeah.
But if he decides not to do that, dude, I mean, if you tell me, Mike, the current line is minus 286 for Matthews, plus 240 for Flowers. If I were to tell you that Matthews would not attempt a takedown, should the line be that wide?
No, it's going to be competitive right away in the kickboxing.
Right. So that's why my attitude is that Do I? Yeah, Giles has a more leverage over a very popular Gabriel Bonfim, but I think that line is warranted. I
So
think
you're
Cachoeira, I think Maverick has so much more upside. I don't trust. I mean, Tony Ferguson, I think is done for.
Mhm.
I got to play an underdog of some type. I'm playing up and down builds. I don't think many people are going to be going down here. I mean, I have Giles as the lowest owned fighter, but I don't have Matthews. I have Matthews at 29% projected own, which is not like absurd, like big chalk. So it's like it's not Flowers isn't necessarily a leverage play, but it's more of a leverage play off of like I have Ferguson more owned than Flowers.
Yeah. Do you think that like a Flowers and Giles type, or Flowers and Ribeiro, is that getting too crazy? I'm not going to ask you.
Types of builds that I didn't build any lineups. Like I X'd out Ferguson, I X'd out Cachoeira, and I X'd out Giles. So I have Ribeiro Flowers lineups. I have Salvador Flowers lineups, right? I didn't play much Derek Lewis. I mean, we can talk about that fight if you want.
We will definitely. But I wanted to pivot from your wrestling game plan to one wrestler who I think could score well after the first round equity falls off. Euros Medic, a 1-round fighter, dude. Euros Medic is late notice here, Blender. He scores.
He's an Alaskan FC guy, which means he's
arm. Exactly.
But the thing is, do you trust Semmelsberger?
No, I don't trust almost anybody. Even the main and co-main. It's like I know who should win the fights, but it's like I don't trust them to go out there and not get knocked out. So, yeah, Semmelsberger has paths to score a ton. I wouldn't be surprised if he scored the most amount of points. And the reason being would be like a deep first round finish, or even any of the other possibilities, right? Like a second round finish.
Do you expect him to wrestle that much? I mean, Semmelsberger really isn't a wrestler.
I mean, against Medics, isn't it the path of least resistance? The guy
doesn't mean they're going to do it. It doesn't mean they're going to do it, Mike.
I know, but
it's not like he's a natural. But Semmelsberger isn't a natural wrestler. He's just someone that goes for opportune takedowns. And is he going to do that? Is he going to do that well? Maybe he gets met with a knee and he's done.
The other X factor we haven't talked about, it's at elevation. We're going to see at least one, if not two fighters in there look like $1 million the first round. And they always have gas tank, or they typically are okay, and then they just go fall off a cliff. Have you ever seen that in the elevation Blender? Because it does happen. And I'll tell you the fight. There's our quick pivot, right? Boom. Rogerio de Lima and Lewis. You and I want to see the hands on the hips, second and third round, I bet. But
no, well, I have a lot of de Lima.
Me too.
Derek Lewis, dude. If you faded Derek Lewis every slate, you're up money. So like, if Derek Lewis beats me, like, dude. If Derek Lewis puts up a first round KO, obviously after the first minute, he's going to score 101 points.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because he has no I mean, like, dude, he has fights where the first round he only has 3 strikes, right? He has fights where, you know, he gets a third round decision, third round knockout, and he has 22 total strikes. I mean, like good luck. I mean, like, dude, Derek Lewis is the most. Like, if he doesn't get a knockout in the first round, dude, how does that? He's 7,700. It's not like he's that cheap. I think de Lima has way more paths to a higher score. Has obviously a better inside the distance line. He's one of the best ITD lines for an $8,500 fighter. He is the second best on the entire slate, and he's 1,000 cheaper than Bobby Green. This fight could be slow as hell. It could go to the third round, and they're just putting their hands on their knees.
Boss Bro brings up a point in YouTube chat. Lewis looked great
because he had abs.
He has 2 abs. What did he?
Abs don't do anything for you, Mike. Abs are for show.
I know. I mean, my problem is his power is always going to be there. I mean, clearly, and your point is 100% true. There's no volume. The guy doesn't throw. It's not like you're going to get any. You don't get points for him just getting a knockout comeback win. If there was a comeback win bonus, I might actually play him, right? But
he also gives up, right? Also, I mean, if he faces adversity, I mean, he has. I mean, I have him at 19% projected owned. I ain't doing it. I mean, I think that's around efficient. So it's not like if you're going to play Derek Lewis at 19%, you know, that's fine. But I mean, Rogerio de Lima's line is just so good. I have Rogério de Lima at 35% projected owned. I have him that he's still worth playing up to like 48% projected owned. So to me, 8,500, I'm going with it.
Yeah, I love the path to victory. This show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're in a legal sports betting state, take advantage of their bonus offer. Awesome bonus offer, man. It's real good. New customers can bet $5 and get $100 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions do apply. And I would probably use it on a live spot. I always like the live spots when you can see what the commodity is doing when they slow down. Like
you could do it
at least,
dude, Mike, you could do some of these things after the third round, even going to cards.
Yeah. And what about the I like mitigating the risk and taking both sides. If I can get plus money on one and then they win the first round, you get the buyback on the other side. That's what I like doing. But that's just the way that I play. I still, you don't want to go to this fight, but I keep circling it as the Vergara and Salvador. I just think that's
no. I like that fight. I think that's fine.
It's a key cog to the fight, though, because the pace of fight's going to be there. My problem is Salvador's.
Sucks.
He sucks so good that he could like hurt. Vergara sucks.
He's not a technical striker, but CJ Vergara ain't a good
he
fighter
sucks
either.
Too. Yeah,
right. CJ Vergara is just basically like just a guy that's tough. That's about it, right?
Yeah. But he's tough, but they're both great inside the distance lines. Aren't they both like plus 180?
Plus 175 for Vergara at 8,700 and plus 197 for Salvador at 7,500.
I'm surprised.
Which is the reason why I have more Salvador.
Exactly. That's why I thought the stats would make you back him a little bit more. And there's another one right there. Now, I tagged this guy earlier in the week because Claudio Ribeiro is a guy that I don't know. I think he's got upside, but I probably will withhold or take. I wish I could take it back now because there's a lot of Kopylov love out there. I've seen in the Twitter sphere. How are you handling this fight? Because now I see Kopylov 30% owned, 9K. I guess he can hurt Ribeiro at any time. The deeper the fight goes, the weight class, again, probably slows down. Ribeiro is going to slow down regardless. I just think the stall ability in this one, like we talk about, where what happens if Ribeiro goes grappling in the first round or holds him against the cage?
Ribeiro's not a grappler.
No, but he's smart enough to do it against Joseph Holmes. Stall it out.
That is true. I mean, to me, I just view Kopylov as like not very trustworthy. And the comparison of lines, he's minus 208 to win, minus 135 inside the distance at like 30%. I have him at 29. Ribeiro, I have at 23. They're fine. Like I have them as fine. Like they are both about efficiently owned. If they end up in a lineup, they're in my lineup. I have more Ribeiro than Kopylov only because I'm playing a lot of like Green and Maverick and kind of skipping that kind of Kopylov, Vergara, Semmelsberger kind of range. But the fight that I want your take on is the Holland Chiesa fight because all I see in this fight is number one, I have Holland as overowned. I have 32% Holland and Chiesa at 26. I have the fight as a whole overowned. But Holland, dude, I mean, this guy can't get up. So like, I'm not saying that Holland can't win the fight, but like he gets taken down in the first round and then wins in the second. Like, what is the score? Like, I view this as like, how does Holland win with 100 points in the first round? It's either with the knockout before when he stuffs takedowns, or because he is a black belt.
He's a clown, but he's a clown. He likes to clown and put on a show too. I mean, you and I. Yeah,
but I mean, he can reverse and submit. I mean, he can reverse and submit Chiesa, no problem.
I think it's all possibilities are on the table. Chiesa, we haven't seen in forever. He's training with smaller guys. Makes no sense why is he doing it? I don't know. But his skill level, he should go in and to get takedowns. But like, I could see him shoot a takedown. Holland wipes him out in the first round. I could see Chiesa stall him out in the first round, and then Holland still knocks him down 2 times or gets on top, and the referee's not stopping it. So the price is everything, right? And I agree with you. The ownership's here, so it's a little bit difficult to really get behind him. but Holland's also somewhat of an X factor, but Chiasa's path is grappling, man. It's frustrating. It's like a decision.
Path is grappling, and also if Holland wins in a decision, how does he score 100 points?
Multiple knockdowns, and that's just not going to happen.
Obviously, multiple knockdowns is probably not a decision.
Well, yeah, true, but that's the only way that he gets there with the decision.
You know what fight we haven't talked? Do you want to continue with this fight, or do you want to actually talk about the main event?
No. I just think Holland is not trustworthy ever, and not easy to get behind at 35%.
The main event, Mike.
Yeah,
I have no take other than I have one of them in all of my lineups, and good luck telling me who wins.
I think I would have to say you have GAETHJE because Poirier is going to be through the roof, right? Poirier is going to be.
Well, I mean, no, I have both. I mean, I have more GAETHJE than Poirier, yes, but I have Poirier projected on at 52, GAETHJE at 37. I have GAETHJE. I have both of them. Like even at 52% owned, I have Poirier as slightly under owned. Like GAETHJE, Poirier probably should be closer to 60% owned. If things were efficient, it's the price point. It's 8,300 5-round fight with a plus 125 inside the distance line.
It's money.
It's hard to see them not making the optimal lineup, even in a 5-round decision, with how much volume and pace this fight's going to have. And then GAETHJE, he's even cheaper, and I have him as he should be like 45%. Like this fight should be 100% owned. So I'm just playing him, and I know it's going to be a high-owned fight. I know there are paths to get unique by not playing the main event. Just at this price point, it's hard for me to see a 5-round decision not making the optimal lineup. And a finish makes it also. I mean, there's just so many paths for it to be optimal, especially an 11-fight card. 15-fight card, we have a lot more options. We don't have many options here. So I don't know who's going to win, but I just have one of each in every lineup.
This is total sarcasm. Justin Gaethje got a takedown last round. Remember, he finally shot a takedown. No. This is going to be... It's a BMF title, dude. Of course they're going to stand and bang. And long-term, I mean, both guys have gotten hurt a lot, but Justin Gaethje just accumulates way too much, and he wears it too, Blender. It's like... I was a little surprised on a rematch that it wasn't Poirier like minus 200. Just personally,
I mean, minus 148. I mean, there's not that much of a difference. It's a difference between 60% win probability and 67% win probability. It's not like ridiculous.
No, but yeah.
Well, would you be shocked if GAETHJE knocked him out?
No,
you're never shocked if GAETHJE knocked anyone out.
Hell no, no.
Why not?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm surprised you're saying you're locking it, but it's because it's 11. So would a 12 been the threshold where you say? Maybe it's
the price point. It's just it's like the chances of the winner of this fight getting 100 points is just too high for the price point. It's the same type of threshold with Rogerio de Lima. It's just that at his inside the distance line and all of his metrics, like he should be more than 35% owned. He should be as owned as like Bonfim and the guys above him, and he has the same ceiling as all those guys, and he's like 500 to 1,000 cheaper. So, like, if Rogerio de Lima was 9,200 on the slate, like, I'd still be playing him. So, like, fact that you get a discount on that, it becomes a price thing. And for the Poirier GAETHJE fight, you don't know which one it's going to be. I don't know which one. I have no takes on who's going to win. Just all I know is that the likelihood of the winner being in the optimal lineup is more than its ownership.
Way high, yeah. And how much money is too much to leave on the table on a card like this? Because I think it's 4, 9, 7 on up is going to be a winner. Like I think
it's more likely, but you could. I've lineups that leave 800,000 on the table.
So then at that point salary, because there are upside. That's the thing. We talk about this all the time. The smaller the card, the better win equity. There's ceilings though for the leverage.
I mean, Salvador could get a knockout. Lewis could get a knockout. Right, Giles Flowers get a knock. I mean, like Chiesa could put up 120 points grappling. I mean, there are underdogs there, but I'm just saying the ITD lines of all these guys that are in the 8K, 9K. I mean, they're just so high that it's most likely that there's going to be like 110, 120 point scores out of high price fighters that you're going to just need in your lineup.
I agree. I just hope that Tony Ferguson isn't the guy that hands Bobby Green a quick win bonus or
no, but he stays away. Bobby Green's good defensively.
Yeah, well, he gets hit and he shakes his head so the referees.
No, but I mean, he stays away enough or whatever. I mean, people are playing Tony Ferguson because of the name. You take away this name and he shouldn't be 13% owned.
No, never in this spot. So I agree 100%. Next week we end up going over to Sandhagen versus Font. That's 11 fights as well. Sorry, Blender. 11 fights again.
Maybe one gets canceled, but down to 10. What are we doing?
They need more fighters in Vegas so they can have some more last minute fights.
Schedule 17 fights and just have 2 on hold or something.
You missed out last week. Did you play?
No.
Okay, well, it was an adventure. That's for sure. Tom Aspinall missing the quick win bonus by a few seconds there. It's like that was the cherry on top. But listen, for producer Devin, myself, Blender, we're out ya.